Well, hello, whoever has tuned in. I am hooking up my earpieces so I can hear what the hee-haw is going on. Welcome to the Horus stream. Had a buddy who... Well, hello, whoever has tuned in. Gonna get some feedback here. I am hooking up my... Well, give me a sec. There we go. Got it hooked up now. Okay. Buddy of mine recently picked up a Horus Ascended model, used, and it was very mediocrely painted, and so handed it off to me to do as a commission, which is awesome because I've been wanting to do this model, and spent about a week figuring out, or basically cleaning. A couple pieces fell off, and I had to put them back on. His maul here broke off, and so I had to drill out and reattach. I was able to get a couple of these wolf pieces off so I can scrub out. There's a lot of gunk in, but yeah, doing this as like a little 3-part piece. Unfortunately, he didn't have all of the base. Just has this piece of base, which does look correct to the online piece, but I was painting faces yesterday and hopped in and painted a little bit on. Let's see, I'll put this in front of here. Nope, too much. Painted up his face a little bit. I'm going to come in and do some air blending. It's not amazing, but good enough. But so I figured I would work on the body today. As you can see, I've primed it black. And then I came in with my airbrush and just kind of airbrushed some volumes on the cape and on the wolf, just so that I could have an idea of what I wanted to do. I know on the Games Workshop version it's a darker gray, but we'll see. But so gonna do something a little bit different than I have been. I might, because there's so much black on here, I'm gonna try a different style of doing the armor. I've seen Vince Venturelli has did this on his Horus Ascended model, which is one of the places I always look for people to give me inspiration on how to do what I want to do. There's a lot of metallics on this armor, but so going for kind of the Horus green, and so I have a couple colors here that I may use. These are probably going to be my main armor colors. Can't tell what that is. This is dark sea blue from Vallejo, emerald, jade green, and then Italian Tank Crew 2 Panzer Aces highlights. Really nice colors. I'll be mixing these a little bit to get the armor color where I want it to be. Already put them on my. Already put the two jade and whatever on my palette because I wanted to test them out, see what color they were. One of the things, black armor is tricky because I found, for me at least, and after watching lots of tutorials, depending on how you highlight, it'll go gray. And so I've been trying lately to keep my blacks from going gray, just because it's a very... It seems like that's an easy thing to happen when you're doing this painting, or black armor painting. Let's see, I'll bring my camera in here. Zoom in a little bit. So this, like I said, this is going to be a little bit of an experimenting. I'm going to add some dark sea blue to my wet palette here. There's a lot of different ways to do black armor. If I was doing this as a quick piece, I would probably do more with my airbrush and then bring it down after the fact. But in this situation, I'm gonna do a little bit of hand brushing first. I'm gonna focus on all of the black armor bits, and then depending on how that goes, I may end up getting into the gold, all of this trim, because there's an enormous amount of trim that'll take forever. I may start that and then finish the trim off screen just to speed things up. So first off, before I go anywhere, I'm going to actually come in and fix a couple spots that I had a little bit of overblow with my airbrush, which is fine. I'm just using the dark sea blue. So it does mean that that is a little bluer, not in the black, but I'm okay with that because I'm going to come in after the fact and kind of smooth blend and darken my armor colors back down toward black. Let's see. Yes, I love this color. This dark sea blue is one of my favorite colors. So if you do non-metallics a lot, you get to listen to a lot of people talk about how to achieve, that you can paint up armor, and that it's really, once you get to the highlights, you can actually have a decent bit of colors and paints on your black armor, and that it's really the contrast between your brights and your darks that creates that feel. Give or take, I'm taking other people's words. I think it's Vince Venturelli said in one of his videos that if you leave 50% of the black area black or into darker, that helps sell the armor as black. So that's kind of what I'm going to be doing here with a lot of these different armor points, is I'm not going to paint the entire thing with my colors going forward. But I also am experimenting a little bit with this, so I'm going to come in and start off layering in just some deep sea blue here. So this will fill in some joints, and then when I airbrush in, there'll at least be a little bit of color there to help darken up the paints that I do put on here. So I'm not going to focus on being super duper neat at this point in time. I'm going to kind of the goal is not to be super neat, because I'm going to come back in with the airbrush and clean up little things. This is really picking out, like, where do I want my highlights to be in the armor? Am I edge highlighting a lot of areas? Am I, I want to separate all these areas in the dark recesses with little edge highlights. So as Eric Swinson, paint all the edges was one of his recommendations for non-metallic. Always paint all the edges. So outside of the painting that I'm doing here, where I'm just going to come in and add some of this deep sea blue into all these points to give me just some tones in here for in the shadows. I watched a show called House of Usher this last week, and that was I enjoyed it. It was an interesting show, very dark in material and tone. For anybody looking for, if you like horror films, if you like creepy stuff, I enjoyed it. if anybody's watching this that is not in the film industry or has no experience with it, we're currently dealing with the actors union strike. We had all hoped that we would be getting back to work before Thanksgiving on whatever shows were prepared to go before the strike, but there's been a change to that. So more time for painting, more time for watching shows for sure. Also watched a Timothée Chalamet movie, The King, I think is what it's called. It's like the story of King Henry the Third. I don't remember. It was decent. I mean, it was kind of expected. The material was expected. It didn't really surprise me with anything. He's a decent actor. He's always brooding. But I think that's what most stuff is written as these days. Just everybody always just stares intently at each other. Let's see. I'm coming here. Just kind of wish that Dune would have come out. That would have been a great movie to rewatch over the holidays numerous times. Do like a marathon. I enjoyed the Dune. Most of the movies that, what is that director's name? I forget. My brain is focused on the painting, not on the movie. So as you can kind of see, you're seeing a lot more green in it than it actually has. Or you're seeing a lot more of that color due to my auto adjust on the camera, but it's fine. This is actually more than I probably should do in terms of highlighting. Or I'm not really highlighting, I'm just filling in all these blacks. I could have come in and just airbrushed this color on, but I find that there's a lot more cleanup to do if I airbrush a main color on. You know, I have to come in and paint all of these things, all the armor bits brown or black before I come in with my metallic colors. And that's a pain because you have to think about those things when you're doing these. Your undercoats can affect and you'll see a little bit of it later on, but metallic colors tend to go on better over blacks and browns than lighter colors. So I tend to avoid, if there's a lot of metallic to do an airbrush over it. If I had had the ability, I probably would have left this model in two pieces. I might have left the cape off if I could have to make getting to the backside easier. But it's also helps limit where you're painting when you have a model built, because in reality, do you want to spend a ton of time painting down in this area when no one's ever really going to see in there? You know, everybody wants to see the front side. They don't want to necessarily see deep in under. Still want to add color in there, but you know, if I was doing glazing or anything that was really time consuming, I would spend way too much time trying to soften it and smooth all these transitions, and then you're not really going to even look in there. So For the cape, I'm going to probably do more airbrushing to smooth it out. Not to smooth it out, but to get all my colors on there, because it's just a quick, fast way to get a nice feel to the large, broad areas that have these, you know, nice folds. It's also to figure out where you're going to do your metallics. Sometimes I may decide to come back and do this area as metallic, or I'll go with this kind of highlighted green color, kind of doing the Horus Sons of Horus colors. It's some of these models, it can be a little difficult to figure out like how you want to do it, because there's just so much of an area. But like, I love that. I do love that color scheme that you get. I can't see who joined me on the chat. If that's you, my dear brother Tim, thanks for joining again. Last time I streamed, my brother watched, and I didn't know anybody was actually watching, because I was so focused where I was, and I felt like a jerk for saying nobody was watching when he was. Hope everybody's got fun plans for Halloween. I am doing nothing but painting, as far as I know. No plans made. Don't want to spend any money. Yeah, gotta go in here, get some of the little fiddly bits. This would be an area where I'm not sure what color I want to do, like his vambraces. I don't know, that's the correct term. Kind of want to go with the green feel. This will be an interesting area. What I'll probably do is just give myself a basic highlight. This is the first time I really held the model. Spent days cleaning. I think that eBay rescuing miniatures is actually really worthwhile for those of us that don't mind cleaning goo and paint and stuff off of models. I mean, it took almost a week to get this really cleaned up, but it was mostly just soaking it in different solutions and then brushing it with the toothbrush. So, I mean, you know, maybe an hour a day in total. It's definitely a commitment. Let's see. Oh, there's a little bit. Even in some of these darkest little regions, I'm going to add a little bit of this color just so that there's some color in there. I probably can't reach. I won't be able to get all these points detail with the cape on, but if I can add a little bit of color, that'll, you know, just be a little bit. I may attempt to add an edge highlight on some of the armor. I love these models, but they are not horribly, they are amazingly detailed, which is a blessing and a curse. They look awesome, but there's so much detail that it can be maddening. Let's see. As always, I will pull up a reference image just to see. As you can see, looking at the Warhammer website, just to see, okay, they did choose those colors there. I'm kind of using it as a reference and then going a little bit my own way. So there's things I like about what the G-Dub paint jobs, and then there's some things that I don't like. So I take them with a grain of salt and look for things I like, things I don't like. I mean, the people that paint them are phenomenal. Like their ability to maintain that quality of painting with everything is amazing. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going here. I don't, side note, I don't eat a lot of sugar things with sugar. I had donuts this morning. I was out doing some, buying some food for the remainder of the week. And, yeah. Had some, I broke down and got some coffee and donuts. Oh man, it's going to be horrible for me in the next couple of days. All that processed sugar getting in there. So I am going to use Emerald, and this is going to be kind of a messy mid-tony feel. I love the color. It's going to look gross. The concept is to come back in with my airbrush and soften a lot of this, and I'm not going to worry too much. Again, airbrushes don't fix everything, but in this situation, to get this kind of really severe edge highlight that I want on here, but the armor darker, I'm okay with this. So this is pretty green. I'm going to come in, kind of see what I can do here. Some of this stuff will disappear completely when I do the airbrushing. It's not this is really just me finding kind of my tone. So I'm going to choose, this is the legs are very much, this is a cylinder here. So there's kind of a strip down the side, or down the center of what would be facing skyward. That's where I'm kind of focusing these, this paint job is I'm going to kind of just bring a highlight here. I'm going to do from in here, get some of this area on the arm, down in here. My biggest highlights are going to be this section, and then with the metallic going to come in here, but this is an area that's going to be very noticeable. So I will do less mid-tone deep down in here. I'll do more with the highlights, whereas this area will have a little bit more of the mid-tone colors in. So it's going to be fun to try and highlight some of these details that you can't really see on camera. So I'm going to leave the center part of this leg darker right in here. In all truth, you can get away with a lot when you're doing this style with an airbrush. I'm trying to contain my time spent on this model to I'm trying to not spend 3 weeks on it. Trying to do this in a orderly fashion. Here I'm going to focus on the frontal side. I don't know if you can see. Wish I had magnetized this so that I could hold it in a better manner. As you can see, even with adding this color, it's still pretty dark, but really I'm just trying to add in this color tone to what I'm painting here. I really want this kind of deep, not deep green, but this jadish green to have a nice little pop once I come in with my airbrush and make some noise. Then I'll end up coming back in with the metallics. Oh boy, I'm going to break that off again. Jeez. Some of this may get covered up by the highlight. That's okay. On some of these really really detailed areas, I will leave a little undershadow from parts of the armor. That way I don't have to come back in and try to line in that detail. I kind of want to... Some of this stuff like has a lot of metal. Ooh. Let's see, I found little support pieces that didn't get removed by the owner, and I didn't notice until just now. I hate it when I find things after I've built a model. There we go. See those more in like 3D printing than I do with the Forge World stuff. Usually it's just edges. So think I'm going to take this piece under here. Since I have a gold area above it, I think I'm going to come in here with this green. Even if I don't have that blue, the deep sea blue, I'm just going to come in here and do some all along the edge. When I come back into darken, I'll hit some of the side areas a little bit more so that the center is a little brighter. And when I'm in here, I'll really edge highlight that out. A lot of the things I do are things I've learned from my painting coach and morphed or painting classes. So if anybody wants to get better at painting, there are so many tutorials online, and you can find tutorials that have no airbrush, that have airbrush. I highly recommend that people research stuff before they paint, because you will find all kinds of cool tricks, suggestions. A lot of people don't even bother to go online and look for that stuff. Like I get asked, how do I paint this? It's like, well, go to YouTube, type it in, see what you find. A lot of people just don't even want to do that work, which is fine. It's one thing if it's me hanging out with friends. It's another thing if it's somebody online going, hey, how do I do that? Well, I wrote about this guy in the post. You can type in their name and find a tutorial. Back in the day, it was great. The Warhammer tutorials that came out regularly were really good early on. Now they have their own app, so they still have a lot of that stuff available online, though. Let's see. Yeah, Warhammer on YouTube has enormous amounts of stuff. In terms of other things I'm painting, working on a couple little small commissions. Have a Ultramarines kind of hero group. I don't know what to call them. Command cadre. I don't know. Working on my own Black Templar and the Cities of Sigmar stuff, which is almost done. And then Primarch, Angron, almost done. Got a little bit to do on his base. And I'll post some photos of that. Nobody cares. I'm just enjoying painting and talking to myself. Let's see. I enjoy airbrushing these capes. This underside will be a little interesting because it's I don't want to get any backsplash on the armor, but I'll figure it out. So I'm just doing less and less, nothing super deep about what I'm currently doing. I'm just doing anywhere from 50% or less of an area is getting this this green, and then I'm going to jump to a highlight after this. Maybe I may do one more coat and then airbrush and then come back in with my brightest highlight, my edge highlighting. We'll see. Similar concepts to everything else. I'm just kind of cylinders and circles and squares within each piece. So every piece I find, if it has a direction, I just kind of find how it would shine. I mean, you can see it on like glass bottles and stuff. You see this is cylinder, and depending on how the light is aimed at it, it has a different look. So I'm creating this effect right here. I don't know if this has a specific name. I don't have just a regular glass bottle close to show you or anything like that. Oh, that's a lot of... Pretty well. I can come back in. I forgot a little bit of dark sea blue in there. That's pretty good. Oh, I forgot here. Just realized that my dirty water cup is really close to my microphone, so I'm giving you sound effects of the swish, which I'm sure anybody that needs to use the restroom will thoroughly appreciate the squishy sounds. Swishing, it's not squishing. Okay, let's see. Well, what is this? Okay, this jade, game color jade. I think that's what it is. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Let's see what that does here. Well, that's nice. So I'm going to again come back in, new color, slightly brighter, and I'm just going to do a smaller area. You can kind of see there it looks really rough to camera, which is totally fine. This is where I start to find some of my create some edges within what I'm doing. Obviously try to get these edge highlights as much as I can. The goal is not to cover up all of my previous color. And you'll see I'm choosing to create kind of a pattern in some of these areas with my brush strokes, which it's really just, you know, armor gets those striations, so it's kind of a fun thing to throw in there and add. And then again, don't want to fill in everything. I'm going to add some little points on some of the armor. But doing lines, even if they're not totally fixed, is okay. You can always come back in and smooth out the lines a little bit. Up in this area, I'll probably just stipple in some here, just less than I had done previously. And then, so I'm going to keep on this line here. I'm going to try, down in here, I'm going to try to be even more subtle with my lines. I need to do some edge highlighting here. Ugh. And then because this is my cylinder, this is going slightly off, but this is aimed more at the sky than over here. So over here I will do my highlights differently. Since this is the outward facing side, you would get a little bit more light. I'm going to start on the back side here. Here I'm going to do a lot more of the basic edge highlighting and come right along the panel edges. So just even that much adds a little, but I'm going to add a little as a secondary reflection, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to do a little straight line here, and then a little bit there. Same here, same line. Just going to continue that line down a little bit, and I may do like a little triangle out. I'm actually going to come in and add a little tiny line right in there, just to separate the armor. I can't reach super far in. See how far I can go. If I get a little mess up, no worries. And then come back this side, see if I can. You may not be able to see it for my head, but I'm going to try to get in here and add a little edge highlight. There we go. So I'm going to continue in here and try to give this some definition. So this is, I'm going to not go all the way to the top. Come across. I'm going to come down. There's a lot of detail in here. A little bit of damage to the model from cleanup probably. So it's looking pretty bright right there, but that's okay. Let's see. I notice when I'm doing these edge highlights, ever so often you got to just clean off. You get these little paint dingleberries on the end of your paintbrush. So I'm going to come back and paint all these little nubbins metallic most likely, so I don't care if I get paint on them. But I'm going to try to make this a little bit more of an armor edge going down. Same thing here. This side's a little harder. I don't know what color I'm going to do these. I may just do them in a, to get a difference, I may do them silver if I'm doing his armor kind of in a gold. And then that's about all I'm going to do in there. I'm going to come along this bottom edge, help separate. I'm trying to not go right up against the edge so that there's a little black line in between my paint and the next edge. There we go. That way there's just, even though there's going to be gold, there's a little black line separating here, and I don't have to come back and do it, hopefully. let's come in under here. So I'm going to do this. Turning your model around helps. Never just keep painting a model same direction. It's a pain in the butt. So I'm going to do this just to get a nice crisp highlight all the way down. Nice. Here's that little spot that I cleaned up. I'm going to add some of my deep sea blue in here. Primer really helps, but if you have an area like this on a model that you just need to cover up a tiny doodad, since it's not going to get a lot of hand touching in that specific zone, it's pretty safe for let's see, how long we've go? Oh, 41. Wow. 40 minutes already. Okay, so being that the angle is changed a little bit, I'm going to come down in here and do my little highlight here, but I'm not going as deep, and there's a little nubbin right there. It's okay, I'll probably paint that up. Same thing, make it a metallic color. So as you can see, there's that. Since I haven't painted in here yet, I'm going to go ahead and add a little down in this zone. We'll call it the secondary highlight. I could probably, I'm going to actually do a lot of this edge here. Just give it kind of a haphazard lines and edging, because that would catch quite a bit. On the shoe, there's a lot in the shade, but there's edges to do. So talking about painting, boop beep boop boop boop. One of the things that helps me is hitting the edges first. Sometimes really helps me figure out how I want to paint an area. So it also helps me look at it and go, you know what? I don't need to paint a whole lot in this area. Just the edge work by itself is really nice. I'm going to work over here. Okay. So since I'm deep down inside the model, you can kind of see there, like, we're getting a nice little effect. I'm gonna do my kind of secondary effect here. I am gonna try to edge highlight some of these runes that you probably can't see. And then I'm going to do my secondary highlight in here. We'll call it a secondary highlight. It's just me adding cool stuff. I think that's something a lot of people don't recognize, is if you're not competing, who cares if it makes sense? If I was painting this for a competition, I'd be insane. Be very difficult to do. Me personally, follow the rule of cool. What, 95% of us will never, if not more, will never go to any of those contests for any reason. I do recommend people try to compete in their local game stores if they have any kind of painting competitions, because it's fun. So here, I'm going to add, and just come across the top here a little bit. Same here. Kind of do this edge highlight trick again. Turn the model. I turn my model a lot. And then here, this is where it gets really small. The best option here may be to just paint the whole area with my lighter color and then bring a wash in later to get into all these little crevices. So I'm trying to kind of dry brush the top here, but at the same time it's such small details for me, it's not really worth spending the time trying to pick them all out because you'll never notice them. Here, same thing, I'm going to force this shadow by keeping my highlight to kind of the more open areas. And I'm going to focus more on the center of the chest plate here. In terms of, I'm not going to go super deep back in there. Let me go a little bit more, just some little dots. So this is an area that's a little harder to explain. You can always darken things back down again. So that's my usual philosophy, is if you feel like you went too far, you can always take it back. But even that right there just helps define the armor a little bit. I do feel I want to, I'm going to combine a little bit. That's one of the beautiful things about this wet palette, is I can combine my lighter color with my kind of mid-tony feel and come in and give myself something. Since we do see this area, it's a little too much. Grab a little of my dark sea blue. Pretty good. So much detail in the shoulder pads. It's got a nice little feel to it, though. It's too bright for my ultimate goal. But like I said, I'm gonna grab the airbrush. Just gonna do a little line in there. Same here, gonna do a line down the edge. Try to leave it so that there's a little dark lining. I'm actually gonna fill in a tiny bit there. I treat this like a cylinder, so I'm gonna kind of fill in This is one of those spots that I didn't get the mid-tone on since it's underneath. I'm still going to add some highlight along the edges here. There's a little bit right there. And then this is our top part, the trick, edge highlight. Hit all them edges. I'm okay if I hit some other bits right now because I'm going to come back in. So here, I'm going to focus on this edge. Same thing I did earlier, which is a bunch of little lines, and then I can come back in and fill them in a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit smaller along here, just create some texture. Nothing too crazy. That's fun. This other side has this eye. So I will probably do the same thing and just create a little bit of highlight in here. Almost equal with the other side. And then I'm going to come down. Actually, I'm going to just give this whole area a little bit, and then I'll darken it with the airbrush. And I won't worry about that underneath. So there you can see, we've given our armor some shape. I wouldn't know what to call this. Thanks whoever's viewing. Hey, Curtis. Hey, buddy. There you go. Well, the person who is commissioned this gets to see the direction I'm going. Don't worry, I will darken it down. You get to see the full Monty probably. Wow, I sounded like Kermit the Frog when I said hello, Curtis. Hey everybody, so here's the thing. Painting little plastic toys. Isn't it awfully nice to have some miniatures? Maybe this should be my stick. Painting with Kermit. I just depressed myself with my own, my sound of my voice just depressed me. Yeah, supervise. You mean I have to be serious now? My employer is watching. Edge highlights, edge highlights. Highlight every edge. I apologize if you can't see where I'm currently painting. There you go. So, really tiny little squares in the back. Working my way around the Horus Ascending model. Oh man. I hope I got that stuck in somebody's head. Painting miniatures. So here I'm doing the same old, giving myself a line across, leaving a little. I'm painting a cylinder. I'm going to do this highlight in the center. This is not what I want. I'm going to change. This is the other beautiful thing about wet palette painting. I didn't like that highlight. So I'm going to start over here. So, as usual, I will go back to my normal plan of attack when I'm doing armor, as I will highlight the edges that I can see and figure out how I want to do this. Apologies if my hand gets in the way going for these deep models. The goal with these, since I am so shadowed, is not to specifically do a whole lot. It's just to separate. Edges always have some kind of reflection kick. So okay. What I want to do is I actually want to come down this edge. Oh, there's a little fuzzy. I don't know what it is. Let's get that fuzzy out. There we go. Prevented me from getting a nice line. Grabbing my mid-tone, fixing. So I'm going to go down, I'm going to do a line directly on the inside here rather than go down the center for now. There. Leave in a little line in between me and the leg armor. So just even that much adds some, let's see how I feel here. I think I'm going to now go horizontally. Focusing. As you can see, there's quite of a reflection due to my light. I wonder if I can see it moving across. But so. This would be, let's maybe I'll go for a mid-tone, kind of a part way between highlight, so not quite the jade and not quite the emerald. Have them on my palette, can mix them up real easy. So this won't be as bright, and I'm going to do the cylinder effect. You noticed earlier I was kind of doing it, but this will be smaller. Try to not cover up my highlight. And then I'll go in with my highlight and do a very small one after I fix up any boo-boos. So I have a very small little cylinder line. I'm just going to do a straight line for now. It's funny listening to me clean my brush off. So that's my primary kind of highlight, and then I'm going to come back in here and just do some little horizontal lines to get a little armor feel. And then I'd be remiss now if I didn't add the same up on the higher bit of armor. That's what I was saying about sometimes you could just add in your edge highlights and it shows you something that you in reality you'd feel you need to see. So in here, same thing, using my darker jade color. We'll let it dry. I'm gonna hit his butt flap. You know, it's really awkward. Must be really awkward wearing all this, you know, animal fur or whatever, and then like having to use the bathroom in this stuff, because dear Lord, that would be complicated. which is why he's got these butt flaps. Oh. I mean, you would have to have some serfs, some human thralls if you were a Warhammer person. Those are human slaves, worshippers, whatever. Have to have them come and like crawl in between your legs and open up your butt flap. And then you never know what might happen there. Okay, it's probably dried now. Come back in, do the same thing, match my highlight from further down. So now it goes all the way down on that leg, and I can come back in and do a little bit of these lines. If I hit too much, I can always lose a little bit. It's pretty cool. I'm actually going to add in here, very subtle line across all three. Ugh. Hey, and I forgot the other foot part. Adding in kind of our darker mid-tone to this area. Let's see, where else do I need to go with some highlighting? There's under the arm, both hands left to do, this other leg to do. Sometimes it's fun to hit the areas that are not as important first, because you can get in your rhythm and find kind of the style you're going for. I don't know if you can see that. Yep. Hitting up underneath this arm on his hand armor. Just hitting a lot of this area with my mid-tone color because I forgot to previously. Let's see. So I'm gonna, under here, another area where you don't need to do an enormous amount because it's very deep in the shadow. So you're trying to sell that idea. Again, we have a cylinder shape. Just gonna do some little lines, slowly getting smaller into the back. Gonna do a little this area is gonna be a little difficult due to all. Just gonna kind of stipple in on this upward facing area, leaving some spots darker. Oh boy. And then we have all the way back over here. Same thing, painting a cylinder. And just kind of add a little triangle shaped piece here because I don't need to add too much to it. Same here. Just, it's amazing you can just add lines in places. Like, it's amazing how just lines and shapes can become a pattern that makes sense. Oh, we're dry here, so I'm going to add On his foot, more of just a matching piece right there. There we go. I feel like that's coming together pretty well. His underhand is probably ready. This is another spot where I will start with my edge highlighting and then decide what I think looks cool after the edge highlighting. And if it's a little messy, that's fine. Really, this is the underhand. There shouldn't be too much edge highlighting. I will be bringing some metallic in here on these little bubbles. Just gonna go ahead and do that. I'm okay with that. Again, can always darken it down again. So under this area, why, Andy, why are you painting this area that nobody will ever see? Because I will know it's there. Same thing, trying to edge highlight, figure out how I want to do this. So in real life, you would have an area of shadow right along this ridge due to the ridge blocking. So my highlight is going to stay more toward the center and back of this gauntlet. At least that's what I'm choosing to tell myself. So in here, add some I need to get some music. I'm just going to DJ myself. I've never beatboxed. I'm just going to beatbox. Painting on this Horus Heresy model. Wait, this is Horus Ascended. Technically, would that be Horus Heresy? I don't know. Chris, you'll have to tell me. I hope you're painting. Are you painting and supervising? Or are you just listening to me and doing real work? Okay, that's pretty good. You can see in there. Okay, give me one moment. I'm going to take a chug of water. I don't want you to listen to me gulp it down. And I'll be right back to continue. Oh, yeah, I was about to say that weird autocorrect right there, Chris. That definitely that was a weird autocorrect. But watching a movie and listening to me at the same time, huh? I applaud you for your ability to multitask. Well, keep going on this leg here. So, like I said earlier, because this leg, if you look at how it's back on the inside, so I'm going to do my highlight more to the side here, but I want to edge highlight these little bits so that there's some separation. I know I'm going to come back and do some metal in there, so that's okay if I did that mistake. First off, if you look at my other panels here, did a line across the top, a very small line on the side. I do the same here. Do a little line over the top. Because this area is in the shadow, I don't want to do too much, but I still want to separate. So I'm going to do, let's see here. There's also some little filigree down this other side that is going to get metallic. So that's about all the highlight I'm going to do there because it's so deep in. When I go one step brighter on my final highlights, I'll probably come in and continue this line. But so same thing for this section. I'm going to do a little armor lining. Oof. Same in the deep area. And one of my little tricks for if I can't get to somewhere is to stipple it in and just do some little dots. And then they kind of join together. Come in, do a little stipple. Pardon my head if it gets in the way. It's hard to see. I don't wear any magnifying glasses when I paint as of yet. Most of my painting has been from normal sitting height because a lot of this stuff you can see without magnification. Adding a little bit more here. I actually have some +2 glasses that I bought for a class. Ooh, edge. Okay. See how that, if it gets any darker or brighter. Here. Man. Getting pretty good here with our almost last highlight on this section of the armor before we go to the airbrushing. So this area is deep under and it's very small little cylinders, so a lot of this, again, sometimes there's areas that you just can't physically see once you put your model on the base, and so you never want to completely distract yourself with something that it's like physically impossible to see. You want to hit it as well as you can with an edge, but you don't want, like his fingers, I can't even get a paintbrush to them hardly, so I'm just going to add straight lines on there so that if you do see them, it has our color. You can kind of see there. You see it, but it's like most of the time your model's going to be here, or people might lift it up and do this, which is why I always try to paint back deep in. Is I won't go all the way into his jetpack area in here, just because that's completely pointless. Oh, so this is supposed to be... Thank you, Chris, for answering my question, which I'm currently rereading the Siege of Terra books. I just find it funny that the Horus Ascended, for those that haven't read all of the Warhammer books, Horus is ascending the entire Siege of Terra and before, But I guess you are probably correct that Horus Ascended is his angry mode. But I don't know. I guess it is a bigger model than the other Horus Primarch model. I just guess I would have expected a little bit more demonizing of him, or I guess that was kind of the point, is he didn't want to be. Thank you, Chris, for answering my question. So same thing here. Got a cylinder. I'm going to just choose a point here after I kind of edge highlight to create a little triangle on the arm. Let's see. So there's a cool piece right here. Need to edge highlight his feetsies, his uncomfortable Crocs that he's wearing. There you go, Warhammer. Partner with Crocs to create a Space Marine Crocs. Let's go. I don't wear Crocs. Oh, so I missed an area. I didn't add any of my mid-tone on this area, it doesn't look like. So I'm gonna come in here again with my jade color. And this area, again, this is an area that's very hard to see from most positions of the model. But I'm a firm believer in getting in some color. I don't like to leave anything just solid black. So even if I don't really have a good way to highlight anything in here, just getting some color in helps. So let's see. That's pretty good. So this under the knee area, can do a little edge highlighting. Around the eye. There is an eyeball looking thing on his armor here. The biggest thing I've learned painting these very complicated models is to just be patient with those highlights when you got a weird shape and you have to rotate and everything. Here, I'm going to do the same thing we've been doing. I'm going to run a line here, leave a little shadow area across the top, and we'll just, it's a nice little reflection area. And then along the edge, I'm going to add a little more of my mid-tony color in here. The fun thing about this is you can kind of pick out details. You can make things look different by the details you pick out. So see under there, I'm gonna make this now a little highlight area all the way down, and I will darken it up a little bit. And then I'm gonna, this is like I said earlier, when you kind of have trouble with your inspiration, just edge highlighting sometimes gives you that inspiration because you find something that you hadn't noticed. So I feel like right here there would be a nice little odd shaped highlight around this eye, and it adds just some visual interest to this knee pad. Even though it's underneath, it's you know, you'll see it when you're looking, but by adding that highlight in the light, it gives you a nice little feel. So here I'm going to extend my highlights on this armor panel going up to kind of match what I just did so that it makes sense. I like that. Okay, so I've been delaying on this gauntlet here. There are a lot of very small lines. So it's a cylinder. There's a little area underneath. I'm going to add a little bit of a highlight on first. Let's see here, armor highlights. So this would be, got a cylinder. You can actually see the reflection right here of my light. That's what I'm actually going to do, is just add a cylinder all the way down, and then with my ultimate highlights that will come after I kind of airbrush down, I may try to add to these highlights. Could be a little bit messier here and then come back in with a wash, yes. But this way maybe I can keep my gauntlet lines. So let me turn it a different direction and you can kind of see it doesn't have the same. Well, that's pretty good. I kept my lines pretty well. Add a little. So very, I don't usually change to an even smaller brush. This is kind of like my go-to brush for all of this because I love the way the tip of this brush works. But I'm actually going to come in here and do some of these edge highlights because I think I can do it. So when I have these really tiny, like ridged pieces, I won't highlight both edges because usually one edge catches. If I tried to do both sides, it would just kind of cover up everything. So, yeah, and even there it kind of looks like I've highlighted all the way in. So I'm going to come back and where's my jade? That works for me. Hour and 20 minutes. Goodness gracious. Here's, I didn't get the whole thumb, even though it's hidden. Add a little highlighting on it, similar to the fingers. Time has flown. Okay. So let's look around, see if I missed. Oh yeah, we got this little inside leg area. Gonna add a little bit of highlighting in here. some little stipples just to give something, and then that way when I airbrush here in a moment, it's a very difficult area to get to. There, even if there's just that little bit, it means you can see some detail in there. And then when it gets darkened down, I'm actually going to overblow my... Yeah, buddy. I'll see you Thursday. Have fun. Thanks for dropping by to supervise. Okay. Checking around, making sure I didn't miss anywhere with my kind of mid-level highlights. Okay. See an area here I didn't get with the jade. No one's ever going to notice. I'm going to add a little just green back in there to help, just so it has some color. If it just goes a grayish black, people will notice. There we go, see? People are going to lift up your cape, Horus, and see that you're totally... Yeah. Okay. I feel pretty good about this. I got a little bit of this underbutt. I'm just going to add a little bit of just a pattern. Gonna come back in here, add a little bit more. Let's see, critical eye. I'm gonna add a little in here. Feel pretty good about this. Okay. So, this is my, I feel bad, again, with my noisy compressor. So, this portion of what I'm going to be doing is just airbrushing in some of these shadows using one of my favorite airbrush inks. Thank you, Aaron Lovejoy. So, since I'm using the airbrush, I'm gonna turn off my microphone for a little. No, I'll leave it on. You can just listen to all the noise. Son of a gun. One of these days I'll have some music. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom out a tiny bit. So a lot of what I'm doing here is I'm going to come in with my Payne's Gray and build back in my shadows, and it will also smooth out my rough paint job. So you can do this on any color. What I do if I'm painting this way, you can see it's a very dark blue, blackish color. I will be very subtle with this. This is not like an over the whole area glaze. The whole point is to maintain your highlights, in which case my needle is a little bit too far out. Okay. Oops, that's my phone. So what I can do is come back in and if I very lightly go in some of these areas where there's I can build back in my shadow. I guess you might want to see it from a closer angle. So I will zoom in for a brief moment and then I will zoom back out so that you can see the whole process. So here would be the best example is if I'm going in here where his arm is. So I'll place myself in a spot. And there you can see I've kind of darkened it down a little bit, but it's also blended. So let's see, on the leg here, I'll come in and very carefully hit the shadowy zone. Here I can be, I use the model itself to give me an advantage, and I aim off the top to just hit the top. So I got to pay attention to where I want my kind of darker area to be. So you never want to totally lose, but you can see there just that little bit of shadow adds to that point. Let's see if I can find a better area to show. Really, it's just coming back in and redefining my shadows and smoothing out the things I've done. Beautiful thing is, if you did a little too much, you can always got your wet palette, you can come right back and do it again, add your highlights back in. So this will also be where I kind of figure out on these inside areas, I can add a little bit of a deeper shadow to areas that were hard to paint. Gets a little blue in there. And then since I'm on the inside, you can see there just a little bit, just a tiny bit of this makes a big difference on hiding your blending. So on the foot, I'm not too worried actually on the frontal part of the foot, but we'll come in here. So I want this highlight, let's see, be a little subtler right there. And then in here, I've got to kind of go between my two highlights. Sorry, getting better at airbrushing on there. I'll come in here, add In my shadow regions, if I get this is totally fine because it'll just add some blue to the shadow. So you could do this with a dark purple if you wanted to. It just takes a little bit of practice and control, and I'm still not the greatest at it. But all I'm doing is really, it's like adding a glaze with your airbrush, except I'm using Payne's Gray. I could have used like a dark purple, a dark blue. I'm going to do a little bit more on his underbutt, but you can see how much it just helps fade it into the darkness. And then this is also a way that if you feel like you've highlighted too much, you can darken it down a little bit. And I'll come back and add in some more highlights. So whatever army you're painting, you could do this in the shadows. You can be a little rougher, come back in and smooth out your painting. You can water down your paint if you want to really change the tone. I just really like this Payne's Gray for kind of the black armor feel that Chris wanted. I think this in the shadow will be really nice. I mean, I guess I could do that with the cape to give everybody an actual example. Let's see, I'm going to come in here. Keeping my highlight more toward the inside. It's pretty good. I like that. Because of how deep I am there, I'm going to just hit kind of the whole areas and let it just disappear a little. The only thing you got to remember to do with inks and contrast paints, that would be, I guess, you can do this with contrast paints, but contrast paints are already thinner, so they tend to be good for tinting whole areas, but not necessarily for smoothing things out like this. So there you can see I'm coming back in. Better to come back and do it a couple times than do too much and really lose a lot of your highlights. So feel like I have left some areas a little too bright still. So I'm coming back in and going to add a little more. I'm going to actually do most of this interior area here since it's so shadowed. Oh, sorry. Probably pretty hard to see with the reflections, isn't it? It's one of those things you just kind of have to go and then make sure you don't go too far. Like this area right here, I can probably take a little bit more because his armor is black with the green hint. So just very slowly working my way back to a darker feel to this, because if the armor's not green, see when I zoom out, it may so if I go here, it gives you a much better idea since I have the autocorrect level adjust. Sorry, thinking. Yeah. And then once the metallic goes on, the metallic's going to be a lot brighter, and that will help darken down the armor even more, which is kind of fun. So I'm pretty close here to what I think is a great end point for the green part of the armor. So yeah, that was a great progression. Very hard to verbalize that. So what I may do is come in and paint my metallic colors. Sorry. I will wait to clean my airbrush till after the stream is over. I may try again tomorrow. Come back on and continue the Horus Ascended. But thank you anybody who tuned in. And thank you, Curtis, for giving me a fun model to paint. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.